Hello, everyone. Welcome to a presentation about the security scanning in payment cards. So it's a presentation that mainly was focused about giving a story how my team introduced security testing inside a payment industry. Like we've got a module of the call center where we were collecting the payment data for the credit cards and all other stuff. We were PCI compliant. We were building a solution that needs to be audited every year and security tested. And we built a framework around it to prepare ourselves for the security testing, for the security auditing by the PCI compliance, for HIPAA compliance. And after a year, I switched the content a little bit. So my initial idea for today is to just encourage you to start being interested in security testing, and maybe, just maybe, start investing the time, investing your capabilities to start security testing on your own projects. How many of you have existing automation in your projects? Okay. How much of this is done in WebDriver? Good. So my presentation will be focused around the WebDriver, around the OWASP ZAP scanner. How many of you have security being tested in your projects? Oh, that's unexpected, so much. That's really good. I'm really happy about it. So a few things about me. So I'm a test consultant. I mainly work between the sales department and the delivery. So I make sure that the sales, when they are selling testing services, don't promise something that it's not achievable from the quality perspective. I'm a public speaker, so I'm visiting different conferences, and I'm a security enthusiast. So I focus my work mainly around enabling security testing. I'm not treating myself as an ethical hacker, pen tester, or more advanced person in the technical way of doing the security. I'm mainly focused around enabling the teams to start being capable to run basic security scanning, basic security testing, just to feel prepared, just to feel prepared to present an image, how the security image or security quality image looks like for the customer. So what we'll talk about today, we'll give a few sentences around why security is so important, why there's like a buzzword everywhere about the security. I will give you a short introduction why it is so hard to start security testing, why is it so hard to convince your project managers or customers to pay the money for the security testing. Then we'll switch a bit to the tools, so we'll speak about the automated scanners, or we present the OWASP ZAP. How many of you are familiar with OWASP ZAP? That's few, okay. And yeah, so probably we will skip the part about the WebDriver itself. And then we'll speak about a bit about the main benefits for your project, for your team, for your customer. And then if there will be time, I will also try to present some alternatives that you can try to use instead of OWASP ZAP, and the integration that will be the main part of the presentation. So why security is important? There is, from the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years, there's a very big focus around the security of the applications. And there are several reasons for that. So there's the data integrity and management. There are stuff like GDPR and all other ability to being forgotten, ability to not allow the company to use your data. There are things that are happening around the world, like there was the situation between the Facebook and its cooperation about profiling the users. There is the economic impact of cybersecurity. So there are some people that, for example, use Twitter, and if they tweet, it may affect economies. Like, as a first example, I would say Donald Trump. He's the better example. Like when he was tweeting about making rockets ready for North Korea, there was like half of economies being like cut in half. There was like big tension inside the economy. When Elon Musk was tweeting that he collected the money to buy off Tesla from the investors, he got like a huge rise on the price of the stocks, and then suddenly, now he's no longer a CEO of Tesla. He will be moved to the board. And that's the part of the agreement because he was presenting false information on Twitter, like a social media, not like a official bulletin of the organization. And yeah, so many countries, I don't know how it goes in Lithuania, but for example, in Poland, we are starting, like a government is starting a portal, for example, when if you logged in over there and you put your personal data, then you've got your whole illness history and how you were treated by different doctors. So this will be a portal available online. I would imagine that from the security perspective, it has to be very, very secure because of the histories. For example, when Obama was providing the healthcare.gov in the US, they had such struggles with it. There were so many downtimes, there were so many stolen data that everybody is afraid how it will go with the new solutions. And there's the whole IoT and the digitalization of the daily life. There's a lot of things that happens over there. So there were like attacks in the US when the Chinese were using their own producer of the city surveillance cameras, and they tried to attack the AWS servers, and they failed a lot of the servers that were fallen down. And there was like in Europe, the Spotify, Facebook, Gmail, and several other big servers were not available because of that attack. So usually when somebody reads about it, when somebody learns about it, the first thing that they try to do is just run to their project manager and say, our project is probably not secure. We need to double check it. We need to test it. And can you give me the time, or can you plan the security testing? Can you try to answer the challenge about the security? And the three most common responses are basically that domain knowledge is huge and we don't have the experience, so we will not do it internally. Let's try another way around. So then the idea is to hire an external expert. And the external experts are very good. Sometimes the knowledge that they have is 10 times, 20 times bigger than you really need for your project. And the costs that you need to pay to them for like every day of their work is huge. Like when I was working in a PCI compliant environment, when we were running a PCI audit, we were paying almost 1,000 pounds per day for a guy who was conducting the audit. And the thing that was really funny was that he was running functional scenarios that we provided him, and then he's got like a scanner behind it, like a burp suit or OWASP ZAP. And 80% of his time that he was doing the auditing for us was just reviewing the results. Was not so big, complicated pen testing and ethical hacking or anything done on our application. Then he was just going through the operations division, and he was just doing an interview, collecting the answers, and then analyzing itself. So some of the cases when there was some findings from the ZAP scanner, he was doing like more detailed white box investigation of those. But the starting point was pretty easy. So the third thing that is usually the response is that it costs a lot of time and money to start security testing, because every project manager assumes that before starting the security testing, we need to learn to be the experts in the field of security testing. And what we did, so in our company, we had a struggle that every year when there was a PCI audit, it then ended up with the overtime hours, sometimes staying a night in the office and fixing the security issues. And we decided that we want to change it. We want to start running the security testing on ourselves. And when we saw that he's mainly using the security scanners, we decided we'll try the scanners ourselves. And yeah, so what we did, we already had some automated functional testing in WebDriver. So we've got an functional regression being done through the WebDriver automation. we decided to investigate the OWASP ZAP because it was like a freeware software. The Burp Suite has a free license, but it also has like a paid license. This is totally free. And we knew that all the requirements for the PCI compliance are mapped to the OWASP top 10 list. And the OWASP top 10 list is fully compliant with the OWASP ZAP. So everything that OWASP ZAP is checking is connected with the top 10 of OWASP potential vulnerabilities. So the only thing that we had to invest in was an effective integration, a way how to run, because the tester that was like auditing us, he was running manual tests, and he was having the scanner as a proxy, and we wanted to have more scenarios covered, and the easiest way to cover the data, because ZAP is working as a proxy, was to run the WebDriver tests. They are also run in a browser, the same one as the manual ones, and then just have the ZAP as a proxy behind it. So this is what we created. So it was an environment, there was a web browser, there was a ZAP behind it as a proxy, and there was the website, which was under the test. So the application itself is an open source solution. It's translated to over 25 languages. It's being supported. There are new releases of it. So every time there's a new OWASP top 10 presented, there's also additions to new version of ZAP proxy. It's a cross-platform, so you can install it on Linux, Windows, because it's written in Java. It's got the intercepting proxy. So if you set up it as a proxy for your browser, then it collects all the movement of the network movement and it analyzes it. So this is the passive scanner. And then there's like an automated active scanner behind it, so you can trigger additional attacks on all the collected data. Then it has a plugin-based architecture, so there's like a marketplace in it. And there's like a huge number of plugins, extensions, like dictionaries of passwords, most popular passwords, for example, from each year, and all that stuff. So you need to just deploy it. You can deploy it like on localhost where you run the tests, or you can deploy it remotely. You can connect it with the CI. There's a lot of way to use it. And here's an example how it looks like. So in the top left corner, this is an example of the UI. You can see over here, here is all the collected data, all the requests and responses. Here are the details. So there's a header, there's a content. So the things that it allows you to do, the things that it allows you to do is you can modify the requests on a fly. You can pause the test and then push the test with already the attack, or you can just review those, then modify it later, and then repeat the same requests. On the bottom, you've got like a list of potential findings, and there is like a description of each of the findings that is being found, with the risk level, with the reliability, with the description. So here is an HTML report. This is like a part of each HTML report of the vulnerability that was found. So usually what it gives you the description, it gives you the place where it was found, what parameter was attacked, and what's the evidence that it really exists. And the good thing for people that are not experts in security testing, the two things that are not visible on this example, but also exist in the report, is it provides you with a proposal how to fix the issue. So you can like scan your application, then grab the results, go to the project manager or to developers, and you not only show them the problems or possible problems, but you also show them the way how they could fix it. And for each vulnerability that is being found, there is always like a knowledge base at the bottom. So it provides you with links to the wiki pages or other blogs when the vulnerability is being detailedly described. So the good thing is that you spend a few hours to set up the environment, like to set up the proxy. And then if you got like a list of the findings and you got the links of the knowledge base, that's the place where you can start learning. You can start build your capabilities of the security testing. You can start learning about each of the findings. and use it, because one of the downsides of the scanners, they are not like a golden solution. One of the downsides is there's a lot of false positives. So there's a lot of places when the scanner is showing you a potential vulnerability which doesn't exist actually in the systems. So on our project, the easiest solution to investigate the false positives at the beginning was to reserve one sprint just only for analyzing the findings from the scanner. And we were doing it together between the tester and developer, because developers were a lot more aware of things like some header is available in the IIS server or a different configuration of the framework being used for programming. And that was the reason why we do it together with developers. Then we collected all the confirmed false positives on a wiki page. And each time we were running a new scanners, we first check the list of the findings against the false positives list, and then we're only analyzing like the new findings. So the biggest benefit that we got from it was that starting when we fixed all the issues from the scanner and identify all the false positives, we never had overtime hours on the next auditors. So each new audit, even if there was any findings, either it was a low-risk finding or it was a false positive. And we usually got on our wiki page, we already got the proof why this is a false positive. And even if the auditor was raising this against us, we were just copy-pasting the justification why we feel it's a false positives, and it was never challenged. Our justification was never challenged by the auditors. So this was like a starting point to give us the capabilities to just start learning the security testing and start building our knowledge base around it, and to feel secure or partially secure for the next audits to happen. So it sounds really easy. So what's the main problems, or what was the main steps that we did? So we need to enable the scanner inside our automation. If you want to do it connected with WebDriver, you need to decode HTTPS traffic, because all of the movement currently is being moved straight to HTTPS. There's no longer many sites that are still using HTTP. I feel like Chrome probably already is, or in the near future will be not opening HTTP web pages. It will mark them straight as potentially vulnerable pages, and will ask you to put like move to advanced settings and allow this page to be open and other stuff. And there was some impact on the project schedule, but this impact was like a single sprint, and it was only for analyzing the false positives. So here is an example in Selenium 2.0, how you can enable the proxy. So we didn't use Jenkins on any other CI environment for our integration. So we were running the automation on our local machines. So the ZAP proxy was also deployed on our local machine. Later we moved to have like a network instance of a Kali Linux, because Kali Linux is a distribution that has a lot more of security tools integrated. But this also made us to run the security scanners and the automation tests on that single instance of Kali Linux. So that's why here you can see that the proxy is being set as a local host. Then inside the ZAP, then inside the ZAP you have setting which port you want to set up the proxy on. And that's the same thing that you do over here. So you enable the proxy. Here is an example in Firefox. Then you put the port for both HTTP and HTTPS. And if you run all of your scope of automation tests through this browser, then everything is collected by ZAP. Everything is analyzed by ZAP, and then you get like a list of potential vulnerabilities. In Selenium 3.0, I know that Gecko driver that we use over here is already not duplicated. It's already not supported. In Selenium 3. I don't know what's the latest, it's 3.3.2 or something like this. But it mainly is very similar. So you set the local host, you set the ports numbers, And here was only an additional capabilities being set specific for Gecko driver to accept all the certificates for the HTTPS, because there was some slightly change in Gecko driver that produced that even if we enable the proxy, it was still showing like an exception that there is a different certificates being used. So this was a fix to make sure that's not a problem. And then the next step was to have the certificate itself available in a Firefox. So I think that you will get all the slides from the organizers. I will send them straight after the conference. But this is like a step-by-step solution. So you go to the options in the Zap Scanner, you generate the certificates, you save it locally on your drive, then you go to the web browser you want to use, go to View Certificates and import the new certificate and make it trusted on all levels. And that's what you get. So this is an example of HTTPS web page. Here is an HTTPS, and there is a request header and body being decoded by Zap. So there is no, so very similar situation goes if you want to use Fiddler for HTTPS decoding. You do it the same way, so you generate the certificates out of Fiddler and then import it in your browser. So that's very, very similar solution. So what are the things that you can get? So from your team perspective, you get knowledge, or you start having knowledge about the security itself. So it's not always like being based on the auditors who arrives once a year and just see what he found, what he doesn't found. You try to build your own capabilities. Then if you get more interested inside the security testing, then you can learn more and more. You get all the links or the resources to learn from, and then you can try to jump between other projects. Maybe you can try to be a security expert, like a pen tester or auditor itself. It's up to you. The benefit for the project is, even if it's only a scanner, even if it gives you a lot of false positives, if you analyze the false positives and you just cut them off and you've got like a number of potential vulnerabilities without false positives, it gives you like a clear image how secure the application is. And it's always a benefit. It's like when you do any sort of testing, you build an image of the quality of the application. Here you just extend it with an image of the security quality of the application. You give an examples and give the data for the project manager or anybody internally who is coordinating the project, how it looks like. Maybe you should invest additional sprint to fix all the security vulnerabilities. Maybe just analyzing them. Maybe you need to prepare more for the auditor that audit is being planned at the end of the project. From the product perspective, the products are like being developed for the longer period than a project. So usually like a few years, new features and other stuff. So when you want to be compliant, again, PCI compliance or HIPAA compliance or any other, probably you will get an audit every year. Probably the auditors will, at the beginning, they will ask you if you have any results of the security testing that you have made during that year. So if you have one, we provided them with the results from the Zap Scanner, and they were accepted by the auditors. So it allows them to make a shorter audit, to feel more secure about what the application they will be auditing. But if you have none, they will start from scratch. Sometimes the audit will not take a week, but it will take a month. And then it will require from you like 5 or 7 releases of the application during the audit. And it will cost a lot of overtime. It will cost you a lot of headache, a lot of stress and nerves. And from the company perspective, it's just build an image that we can provide the customer with the information how secure software we are building. Like we've got internal team, or every tester inside our organization can run the scans, or there is a dedicated security team that is running the scans, that is doing the white box pen testing, that is doing a lot more in that case of the security testing. And then we provide the results, for example, to the customer. So when we are doing the projects like a software house, we, at the end of the project or at the end of any phase, instead of only having functional tests results, we can provide them with the security scanning results, with the security test results, the same way as many companies is providing with the performance testing results. So they run the performance test and they provide the customer with the whole report. And that's just an additional artifact that you can provide your customer with at the end of the project. So at the beginning of the project, it's a really good negotiation point. Like you say to the customer, maybe we are not the cheapest company, but we provide you with the performance reports, with the security reports, not only the functional testing. And this gives a good starting point for your company to negotiate with the potential clients, to build better relations with that potential client or existing client. So that's just the description, what I already said. So it gives you the easy starting point. And you can connect the security scanning with the pipelines in your CI/CD. So if you've got a Jenkins or any other solution, you can install scanner as one of the slaves. And when you are running automation tests, it can connect the proxy as an external server. Or you can have the scanner being installed on all the slaves that you have, for example, in Jenkins. And then it's on each of those, it will be configured as localhost. And then you can have, like, my company had like 4 builds a day that were potential release candidates. And one of these builds was just connected with the security scanning. And it was treated as the first priority release candidate because we've got not only results from functional testing, but we also got the results from the security testing. So that was our solution, how we thought that this is the best way of running this. So there was the build tool that was triggering the WebDriver tests, and there was a web browser with the Zap scanner behind it. And this was the whole solution that was provided by us inside our organization. And it makes us feel secure before the auditing of our application. It provided us with the possibility to present the data to the customers that were potentially buying the payment module. So inside the Jenkins, there was like 2 HTML reports. One was from security, one was from functional testing. And before we went to the production, we were always collecting on a wiki page both testing reports. And if there are any alternatives, like there are few of those. So one of those is instead of Zap Scanner, you can use Burp Suite. So it allows you to be little bit more intelligent security scanner. It has a paid license, but it's got a better scanning results. Like there's a lower number of false positives. Another possibility, we've got an objectivity test framework in our company. So this is an open source solution that allows you to run or implement your automation in different projects. And there's like connections, integrations available with the Zap scanner, with TeamCity, probably, if I remember correctly, as an example of the CI solution. So this is more focused around enabling your test automation, but it also gives you like a tool set of integration to use it with for security purposes. F-Secure, for example, is having a meeting project on GitHub. So meeting project is also an integration between a WebDriver and a Zap scanner, but the interesting thing about it, I never tried to use it, is that they provided it in a way of being something that they called in a project Bdd Security. So it allows you to, how to call it? It allows you to design your security tests the same way as Cucumber, for example, allows you to design the functional tests. So we are building like a feature file with given, when, then, but instead of having a business scenario, you have a scenario how the security scan should be run. So you've got an ability to make a feature file in which you decide which type of attack are the most important for you, like XSS or SQL injection. You can set a level of this type of attack, like high or medium. And you've got like a second set of the feature files. So you can run your automated tests through the WebDriver, collect all the data in Zap, and then have a list of feature files which will be attacking specific parts of the application with a specific settings. Zap has like a command line way of operating with it, so you don't have to always click on the UI. You can write your operations in a way of being operations in a command line or your own scripts. So it allows you to build a glue code behind the feature file to trigger the Zap scanner in a way you want to use it. And one of the other ideas is another business solution is, for example, Qualys. So Qualys is one of the applications that costs like a huge amount of money. If I remember, it's several $1,000s per web page, so per URL address per year. So the thing that is good, it doesn't require from you any investing of your time or learning anything. You just push an URL inside Qualys. Now they also, instead of the desktop application, they also have like a SaaS solution. So you put in your URL where the web application exists, and then it runs all the scanning. And I have never used it because I feel like there's a too high price to use it and too low possibility, like because of the single address. But they say that they have a very low number of false positives. And I did a bit of research around different security solutions, and I haven't found too many with low number of false positives. If they have a lot lower number of false positives, usually they have a lot lower number of found vulnerabilities from the existing in the system. Because some of the really existing vulnerabilities are also cut off like a potential false positives. But it's easy to use. So if you've got like a single web page, or you are building for your customer a single web page, and the customer wants to have the security scan and he don't want to invest your time or any other thing, you can just ask them to just buy for themselves a license and have the scanning being made in a way that don't require too much of investigation. But I prefer people to use solutions like connecting WebDriver with Zap Scanner, because the biggest benefit that you can get is just to get the resources to learn, not only conduct the tests and just review the results, but every false positive, if you want to double check it, if you verify that this is a false positive, it gives you a new information, a new knowledge that should help you in the future. So that's all for me.